I'm your friend to the end.
Demons to some, angels to others.
They're all dead. They're all dead.
You don't know what death is.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's bshowbrian. It's been a long time since I've done this, especially for this channel. I mean, Thursday nights I'm on Spitball Media with John and Shaheen, and we talk about horror movies on the regular there and other entertainment stories, but I haven't done anything like this, the B Show podcast, in quite a long time. So thank you for joining me. If you're still hanging around my channel, I appreciate you still hanging around. I know I do some videos from time to time, but unfortunately, with my schedule, it is a lot more efficient for me to focus on like podcasting, because recording an audio podcast and putting video up on YouTube, two very different things. And at least for me, it's more efficient to do a podcast and put it up as a video and then clip out video pieces for you. And what the do you care? You just want content. The maiden voyage, the return to the B Show podcast here on the channel, bshowbrian.com. If you're listening on audio podcast outlets, you can go to bshowbrian.com or bshowpodcast.com. That'll take you to the YouTube channel. And either way, whether it's audio, whether the video, I appreciate either way. It's up to you. Pick your poison, however you want to bite the big one. Speaking of biting the big one, one of my favorite franchises. I know I've got a Michael Myers mask and a stand-up and a Halloween 2 hat on, but one of my favorite, I think the most consistent of the classic horror franchises of the 80s has to be Friday the 13th. And we're very close to the 45th anniversary of the franchise, and that makes me feel really, really old. Every day I date myself with some kind of reference from whether the 80s or even 70s. I've always said, I guess I'm not listening to anything tonight. I can ditch that. Honestly, I find myself describing my tastes and my sensibilities as like a 90s kid with 80s hand-me-downs. So I'm an older millennial, but in some ways I have some Gen X carryover. So it's strange, but like I work with a bunch of cats that are in their mid-20s right now, and they think sometimes I'm in my mid-20s, and sometimes they think I'm in my 40s, just because my interest pop culturally is so all over the place. And my interest, like here's a Return of the Jedi classic poster or VHS cover water bottle. So like all over the place, right? And anyway, back to the matter at hand. 45 years of Friday the 13th. And it was celebrated by Jason Inc. or Horror Inc., whatever it's called, whatever iteration. The 45-year anniversary, they released the poster and a first look at the new mask, potentially, for Jason Voorhees. As we know, Crystal Lake is about to drop on Peacock, and there's some stuff in the chamber cooking from the powers that be now that some of the rights issues have been sorted out. I've talked about that in years past. Maybe I'll cover that again at some point on the podcast just as we're talking about this stuff. But 45 years in, anniversary approaches, and they drop this teaser for us. And I want to look at this. I want to talk about a few things. The franchise, all that. So let's get right into it. If you haven't seen, here it is. The Jason Universe logo. Now, if you're listening, you don't see this, but you can quickly Google this, or maybe I'll put a link in the description. I'm not going to lie. I don't want to be the guy that downs things, because my generation tends to shit on things pretty quickly. I think it's because we've been around and we're like the grizzled non-veterans, man. When we hear young kids talking about how bad it is, and we're sitting at the end of the bar with a drink in our hand, it's like, really? You bunch of slack-jawed. I'm not going to finish that quote, but I want to really be excited for this. I love Jason. I said this is probably the most consistent franchise of the big ones. A Nightmare on Elm Street, very hit or miss past episode 3, maybe 4. Halloween is all over the place. It's been rebooted so many times that people can't even keep the storyline straight at this point. Friday the 13th was really solid up until maybe Jason Takes Manhattan. And you have to look really deep at horror franchises from that time period to really find something that's still really offering something great past episode 3 or 4. I would say maybe I won't give that away. There's a sleeper one I want to talk about at some point, and an unsung horror hero. But yeah, man, I really want to like this. I don't mind it. I don't even know if this is going to officially be The Mask necessarily, right? But I don't know. It just doesn't look right. It looks like, honestly, I'm going to pull it up so you guys can see. A couple of years ago, I did a video, again, you can visit the YouTube channel, bshowbrian.com, because you guys can't see this, but I did a video, and maybe it's not that I don't like it. It just looks very generic. The logo looks generic. The mask looks generic. I get using the 13, the caricaturized 13 or whatever. But I want to switch to Microsoft Edge real quick, and I want you guys to take a look at this. So I'm going to hide this. All right, see this thumbnail? I made that thumbnail. Someone was selling masks online, and I'll admit I stole their picture for this. And I took a product picture of a replica Casey Jones mask. And I put these together and did a concept trailer based on the Ninja Turtle movie and the Jason Takes Manhattan. And it was just a Casey versus Jason thing. You can check it out at the channel. But if you look here, to me, I did this with some stock fonts that I downloaded that were fan-made, and with some photos that I found online of people either customizing masks for Etsy or just a basic product mask. And I did this in about, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it was, on Photoshop. And to me, what I'm like a DIY, I'm at home, I'm doing things in my own home studio. I'm not like a big budget studio taking care of this stuff, right? So when I see this and it looks like something that's very generic, it looks like something I've seen someone put on Etsy as a nice, a cut above DIY, a little bit more artistic mask photo. With just some basic text with like either the gritty, the plastic with the mask paint kind of worn off, or even it almost looks like concrete. I know it's not supposed to be a lot. I just wasn't blown away by this. I was more excited about the news than I was about the actual photo. Because we haven't seen a new movie in, 16 years? Has it been 16 years? Fuck. When did... Yeah, Friday the 13th, the remake. Was it 2009? Yeah, 2009. It's 2025. It's been 16 years since a new installment. Halloween has been rebooted and killed. There we go, caught a peek in my thorn. Yeah, I don't know. I really want to be excited for this whole project. I want to be excited for everything that comes out of it because, again, consistency of this franchise is up there. Jason was, as far as the lore of this franchise, it was undeniable, even into the early 90s as a kid. Like, I had cousins and my brothers who would watch these movies in the late 80s and early 90s. I was watching them, when I was like 10, the first one I saw. 10? Maybe I was 8 or 7 or 8. I remember it was Up All Night. It was like 1993 or 4. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I remember watching these films up late at night and then renting them on VHS and DVD later on. So I have an affinity. These were huge. This was like the modern day equivalent to these movies would be Terrifier or not Insidious, but the Ed and Lorraine Warren ones. Like they have the new one coming out right now. Or whatever these movies, Scream, when these movies come out and they're everywhere. And even if people haven't seen the movies, they know the characters or the mask or the iconography. Jason and Freddy were parts of pop culture. And I don't mean to knock Art the Clown, but Art the Clown is mentioned because he's infamous. And people, because it's in the Halloween stores now, I think people recognize it. They don't necessarily know what it is or place it. Everyone was spoofing or recognized or knew about Freddy and Jason in popular culture. It was an institution. I don't think Art's quite there yet. And honestly, I don't know if he'll get there. But regardless, that's the closest thing we have now is when Scream comes out, or like when Jenna Ortega gets popular. You know, I mean, I would say she's more embedded in pop culture and a bigger star than Jason and Freddy were. But Jason and Freddy, almost like the WWF in the 1980s, where not everyone watched it, but a lot of people watched it, and people who didn't know who Hulk Hogan was and Macho Man. And they knew the, ooh, yeah, right? So that's what Jason and Freddy were in the 1980s. If you're a fan of them, you know that. If you're a younger fan watching horror content, it's hard to explain. It was wild. And the legend persisted, and it persists to this day, to the fact that 45 years later, the Jason universe is launched, right? I will give The Mask a pass. It doesn't look terrible. It looks okay. I'm sure that when the movie or the other stuff comes out, this is probably just concept art. Maybe I don't like it because it reminds me of the video game, and it looks sort of generic. It almost looks like an AI. Honestly, like if someone put, Jason hockey mask into AI and then ChatGPT spit it out, it doesn't have character. Like I'll do this. Vamping a little bit here, but if you can see this, if you're watching on YouTube, I bought a $9, $6 probably, got a set of them, hockey mask from Etsy or Pinterest. Followed some tutorials by is it Big Hush out of Texas? He does these. He's amazing. And I made a part 3, a part 4, and an NES mask. I've tried a couple others, and I feel like the original mask has character, and even this doesn't look legit because it's not the right shape. But I think you got to go back to the Red Wings style. I think they vacuum formed a Red Wings style mask, and I'm not just saying that because I live near Detroit, but it looks sort of generic. The chevrons. I mean, they've got the chevrons on the cheeks, on the head. They got some whole. It looks generic. In fact, I think that's one of the things that was hit or miss about the remake back in 2009. I thought the remake was fine. The mask is okay. It just, that thick Casey Jones look, it almost looks like, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell, but let me see. I want to try to zoom in so I can see it, because I'm looking at the preview here that you guys are looking at, and it's very small. But yeah, it looks like, I don't know, the chevrons are painted on. I would like to know who did that mask, because it's not a terrible looking mask, but like I'm not a fan of the eyes. The eyes are kind of rectangular. I'm sure it'll look fine. You put that on a dude in a big gnarly sloth from the Goonies looking head, and it'll be just fine. Yeah, and even the font, it almost looks like concrete, but it's supposed to look like the texture of the mask. I don't know. Not blown away. It's a super small, tidbitty, nitpicky teaser thing, so I'm not gonna be too upset about it. And I'm still looking forward to what's coming from. To me, this is a teaser. It's to get us excited. The mask, okay, fine. I'm excited, but we'll see what happens. And I think the whole Jason universe concept, to me, I'm trying to be hopeful and not down this as a longtime fan of the franchise. However, there's something to be said about the commercialization aspect of things. And I know I just said Jason and Freddy were pop culture icons. Fine, that goes with the territory. But I just have a feeling when they roll this out that what you're going to see is Fortnite skins. You're going to see Dead by Daylight or whatever that game is. You're going to see cool comic books and movies and shows and stuff like that. I just have a feeling you're going to get, it's going to be very commercialized, very homogenized, very pop culturally, very quickly. They're going to try to mainstream it. And the thing I'm afraid of with this is we've seen what Blumhouse did to Halloween. We saw what Blumhouse did to The Exorcist. To me, Black Christmas. So to me, it's hard for me to get excited about this big rollout, this big 360 pop culture deal, multimedia deal. Seeing what happened to Star Wars, seeing what happened to some of the Marvel films, seeing what happened to other horror movie properties released. And I hope that A24 being involved with Crystal Lake on Peacock is a good sign. It is a very good sign because A24, Neon, those are some of my favorite studios putting stuff out. So hopefully that's an omen of good things. But if they're going to roll all this stuff out super commercially, it goes back to what I believe Rob Zombie, of all people, had said about Halloween. Where Halloween, at one point, Michael Myers was scary. And then all of a sudden, he was a doll. And it's like it just defeated the whole point. Like, Freddy Krueger was a doll, like Pee Wee Herman. Again, pop culture crossover stuff. But it becomes less about what horror is to me and more about the commercial. And let's sell the dolls and let's sell the T-shirts. Let's get into the Spirit Halloweens and all that stuff. So I'm hoping they don't go the Blumhouse route, and I'm hoping A24 grounds it in a sense. And I think these days, to make it profitable, you have to commercialize it to an extent. You have to hedge your bets. You have to diversify your options. And there are some pretty cool comics that have come out. The Ash versus Jason comics. Ash versus Freddy versus Jason, I think. I've read a couple of those. The Pamela comic, where it shows like Pamela and how things come to be. It's like a fictionalized version of their history, which I'm hoping Peacock touches on a little bit in terms of style and substance. And honestly, with this whole big rollout, we're seeing Peacock, which is a prequel of sorts and a reboot of the franchise. But who knows where it's going to go from here? Because they're talking about movies and games and TV shows and all this stuff. And it's funny because I was thinking about this today as far as the first episode, and I'm sure we'll get podcasts from Sean Cunningham and whoever else. And I mean, that's been kind of done to death, I think. I think once once Postmortem with Mick Garris hung it up and said, I think I've talked to everybody. I think that was about time for that style of podcast, the interview concept with all the people in the business. I think that's done. If you're a content creator that's like a DIY grassroots fan of the franchises, I think you're fine. Continue doing what you're doing. But as far as like platformed stuff, I think we've heard all the stories. But I was thinking, like, how are they going to take this forward? And, I've in the past done horror reanimated where I talk about what if scenarios and come up with concepts. And I don't want to pigeonhole this podcast into one thing or another. But I was thinking, because it's my sensibility, about like what direction they could take this franchise in. And for some reason, when I was thinking about, this being rolled out, the 360 style, this multimedia, I guess, release, I couldn't help but think of Jaws. Because Crystal Lake, we know the legend by now. Jason's out there. He's in the woods. He's in the lake. He's in the fucking outhouse. I don't know. In the kitchen grabbing a sandwich and a beer. It's been a long day. He's taking the boots off and putting his feet up, and he's watching Entertainment Tonight. But joking aside, like, I just thought of the concept of this commercialization and bringing Jason back from the dead, and what Blumhouse has taken Halloween, and it's like they did things because they could. And this ties into it too. But like I was thinking Jurassic Park, like you did things because you could without considering whether you should, right? And I'm being harsh. I'm excited for this franchise. And I like some parts of the Halloween reboot franchise, but it was very much hit or miss and did damage, I think, to the franchise overall as far as standing with a lot of people. But I was thinking about all that, it just kind of swirling around as I'm driving to work this morning. And I thought about two different concepts, and you could even look at one as the first film, one is a sequel in a way. But like I was thinking of like Jaws meets Jason, right? So like I thought it'd be interesting, and follow me on this, if like there's, and I know this has been done, but to an extent you can make it more interesting or whatever the case may be on a rewrite. But I'm thinking like you have not a real estate developer, because I think they did that in Freddy versus Jason. But like you could take like a crypto guy or a hedge fund or something. Or like we have Cedar Point out here near Toledo, out in Cedar Point, out near Port Clinton. In Sandusky, Callahan Auto. Out in Sandusky, we have, it's our regional version of like a Busch Gardens or a Six Flags, but it's a record setting. I think it has the most world records for any theme park as far as roller coasters and attractions. Still to this day, it has for years. And sorry, I keep checking my leg because I was trying not to sell it. But scratched. Hopefully that doesn't get me kicked off YouTube showing blood. I scratched an itchy scab, and the next time I put my hand down, there was blood all over my hands. So anyway, looking at that kind of ideas, could you have some sort of amusement or attraction company? You know, seeing is like, I'm a wrestling fan. TKO is now the parent company of both UFC and WWE and some bull riding. And they bought a Mexican company called AAA. Like, they're gobbling up everything. There's rumors that the Saudi sovereign fund will be buying that up at some point. They're launching Live Golf. Like, I just think of this conglomeration and gobbling up stuff that, like, you could have this someone go into the Crystal Lake area in New Jersey and buy up all these properties, because let's consider even the legend of Jason. Oh my God, this has to be. If you're watching on YouTube, you have to see this. Oh, it's not letting me. All right, monitor. Wow, yeah, it's not letting me. Never mind. I looked up at my desktop, and my new Windows, it's like a rotating set of desktops, and it looks like the Paramount. It's just a lake with these. That's spooky. That's spooky. Okay. Anyway, so I'm thinking about this, like, not a land developer, but like, yeah, an attraction person or a hedge fund who goes in and just lizard brain buys up all of this stuff, because if Pamela killed the counselors in the 50s and time has gone on, or even if it's in the 80s and now it's, 40 years later, 30 years later, whatever the timeline is, I'd say 40, because now Jason would be an adult and all that. Anyway, but like, you have some rich asshole, some sociopath buy up the property, Crystal Lake and the other places around, because no one's going to want to go there and camp. No one's going to want to go there and vacation, Verbo, right? But that's what I'm saying, is like, I'm thinking current, like Verbo, I'm thinking Airbnb, I'm thinking hedge fund people, I'm thinking real estate like BlackRock, like these companies that would buy up all this property. And maybe you have an executive, because this is fictional, because BlackRock and them are not really like this. You could have like a psycho Gordon Gekko, Wolf of Wall Street, whatever, Glenn Ross type of thing, where they know the legend of Jason. They know he's out there. Maybe even this executive lived there, which is why he knows about the property, or it was camp there during the summer. And that's why he knows about this stuff. And he knows it's out there. Maybe he saw Jason. I don't know. But he still buys it up anyway and lures people in to come stay in Crystal Lake in the area, right? The Packanack region. Forest Green. Whatever your choice is. But like, I think that's an interesting way to go, because I think people would gravitate to that. And it might be a little on the nose, so you might have to reel it back a bit. But I imagine, like, there's construction workers coming. You could even mix a little "they live" in there, where, like, there's a poor construction worker looking for work because, you know, the state of what's going on right now. Maybe hard for him in his area to find work, or he's got kids. And he takes this job doing construction on this Packanack region project. And he's backpacking to New Jersey, and like Nada did, and They Live. And he's working on this site, and all of a sudden a guy, he comes to work the next morning, and the guy that he was just talking to the night before he left work is not there. And he's asking where his buddy is. And the foreman's like, get back to work. Yeah, get back to work. You know, I don't know why I just did the Tommy Boy. Maybe that's in my head because I mentioned Sandusky. Get back to work. And so he goes about his business and not want to get fired. But then he notices that the guy's but the guy's wife is there, like, banging on the door to the foreman's trailer. Like, where's my husband? He's gone. And he's trying to investigate the shit, you know, figure out what's going on. And then after getting threatened with firing, maybe you see she comes out with a fur coat on, and the kids, and they've all got gift bags and a briefcase with maybe some money. And they pick her up in a limo, and they're taking her to Disney or something, like to get her out of town. And they bought her off. You know, you can do shit like that. And that's how you get into it. Or maybe he's working and he sneaks in one night for whatever reason. Maybe he forgets his tools. Maybe he's trying to steal some copper. Hard times, daddy. When you go to the job site and they don't give you the damn raise, so you got to sneak back in and steal the copper from the piping. Sell it on the black market. That's hard times, daddy. So you guys are getting some wrestling shit tonight, too. But you could do any number of things, and then he sees Jason, or he sees Jason killing someone, and he escapes. So now, like Chief Brody, he's out there going, hey, ringing the alarm, like someone's out there. There's a maniac. People are dead. What do I sound like? Go Rodney Dangerfield. People are dead, I tell you. But that's what I'm saying. And then, like Jaws style, you've got the foreman, and you've got the business people, and you've got the managers, and they're all like, shut this guy up. You know, you're going to ruin this big launch. We've got a carnival. We've got a hotel chain. We've got stores. We've got all this economic development lined up for this area that we haven't seen since the murders, and that we're keeping hush hush. They didn't have it. No murders. What do you mean? We haven't seen anything like this since the 1980s, since this first happened, because that's the storyline of the series. I think it's set in the 80s. And it's the first time we're going to bring economic growth and viability to this, and to try to kick this guy out. And then shit starts happening and unwinds. You know, that's why I mentioned, I was thinking about Jaws. You know, whereas I think the mayor in Jaws, it can be argued that he's not the villain. He's villainous by justifying keeping the beaches open. But he doesn't believe Brody, right? I'll talk about this on another episode. But in this case, I want the guy to be a dick and to be a villain and maybe meet his end at Jason's Machete at some point. But this development in the region and all this stuff stirs up Jason. And maybe that's why he comes back, because maybe everyone left it alone. And you can build it into the lore that, you know, as all this is happening, maybe part of, like, you know, The Walking Dead, they had the intro with the clips and stuff. Maybe you could show that through the years there have been all these unsolved crimes, and then maybe the cops have covered it up or been paid off and brushed it aside. So you can do all this stuff, right? You can do all this stuff and build the lore in, and they find this stuff out over the year, you know, over the course of, maybe it's a series, I don't know. Follow up to Crystal Lake. Maybe it's a movie, I don't know. But they're finding all this stuff out as Jason is killing these people working on the job site, checking on everything. People checking into their chalets and their resorts, you know. And I guess the irony could be, like, the rich people get the closest access to the beach. And they're the ones that bite it first. And because the poor people couldn't afford it, they're kept out, you know. Or like, okay, or maybe the guy sneaks in and something happens and the guy gets hurt. And he escapes Jason, but then he comes back and he says he's going to go to the papers because, you know, my arm is messed up or my leg, whatever, happened on your job site, and you know about it. And I know you know about it because I found this, and I'll go to the papers. And I'll sue you for, you know, what happened on the job site to me, and I'll be rich beyond my wildest dreams. And then the loophole is, like, legally, right, because he snuck in he's breaking the law. Or, oh shit, no. To steal an idea from South Park that just came to me. Maybe people go to Crystal Lake and they check in and there's a massacre overnight. And then the irony is that these people can't even get their money back or get their bills paid or bury their loved ones or sue the company, because you would think it would be illegal if they knew and put people in the line of danger. But they build it into the terms of service that anyone that, like, almost like Disney, like if you show up to a Disney park, if you download the app and do the park, app stuff to navigate, when you download that, or even you download Disney Plus, there's like a blanket waiver, from what I've heard, when you download Disney Plus, that waives Disney as a company from any legal responsibility whatsoever in the parks, at home, whatever. So maybe that'd be a funny kind of a dick move there too, is like people start getting killed and they threaten to sue, and the CEO's just like, the hedge fund manager, he's like, yeah, in the app, everyone had to download the app. They had to download and reserve their tickets and their reservations on the phone, via phone or internet. You all agree to the terms of service, so fuck you. You know what I mean? Oh man, that would be the ultimate heel move. And man, that's what I'm saying, is that you could work modern stuff in there. And now I'm getting to the point where it's almost comedic, like the Chucky series was. And I don't know if I want that, because it's Jason, it's Friday the 13th. Or maybe you do like Jurassic Park. And this would be hard to do, I guess. And maybe it'd be too on the nose again and too derivative. But like, maybe they have developed it, or that's why I said this could be like the sequel. Maybe they have developed it and they know Jason is out there, but now it's become almost like, or maybe not Jurassic Park, maybe you, instead of doing like it's a retreat where you go on safari and try to find Jason like Jurassic Park, maybe Jason, the legend of Jason, is almost like a cryptid or something like that, like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, So maybe there's this tourism, what's the word I'm looking for? This tourism environment, there we go, around the Packanack region, Crystal Lake, Forest Green, whatever you want to call it, and cryptid hunters or people, college kids, for a goof or a meme or a dare, go to the area and try to find Jason, right? Maybe it's become a thing where, and I mentioned safari, but maybe they go out on excursions in groups with, armed in case anything happens, and they go out into the woods, and maybe for years no one's found it because it's a legend. And then someone finds it, and maybe that there's a tourism environment that grows up around that where people charge for protection or to go out in Jeeps or an armored car, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I was just kind of playing around with that, thinking about like modern times and modern environment with modern technology and the economy and the things that we've seen, the cannibalization of, my wife, and this is strictly born from experience. My wife and I were looking at modest places to vacation this year. And we live near, in Ohio, near Michigan. So we were like, okay, we'll just rent a house for a couple days and it won't be too expensive. But because Vrbo and Airbnb are so popular, and because Michigan has so many lakes and there's skiing and there's fishing and boating, it's expensive, man. It's expensive to even go to a house for a couple of days. Like I think about, like, again, 80s movies, Summer Rental with John Candy or The Great Outdoors. And I think, him going, whether it was Illinois or Michigan or Wisconsin or whatever they went to, I think it was Wisconsin. Thinking back then about he's supposed to be a modest guy of modest means, taking his family of 4 for a week to a family, cabin or something. And just to think what the cost of that would even be nowadays. That's what I'm saying, is like there's all this just floating around in my head, and I guess necessity breeds invention, but we'll see where it goes from here. So ignore my fun pontificating about funny ideas and directions they could take the franchise in, but that's what I do. So that's what the show's going to be. I'm going to talk about classic horror movies. I'm going to give my favorites lists. I'm going to, there's a lot of people on YouTube that do that stuff, and I've been sitting this out for a while, and it's been long enough. So if you want to hear my take on more modern stuff, like A24, Neon, more modern releases, check out Thursday night's Spitball Media with me and John Draper and Shaheen. We talk about all things entertainment, but we talk about a lot of modern horror stuff. I'm going to talk about mostly the classics here with a modern spin like we did today. You know, when the franchises get relaunched, we'll talk about it. When they put out teasers for masks and for titles, we'll talk about it. You know, I did a video a long time ago on the Michael Myers mask, and I think that's, you know, a lot of people have seen that one. Maybe I'll do one on the Jason mask. Someone asked me to do one on the ghost face mask, and it's not really quite as nuanced, but I'll try. And maybe what I'll do is maybe I'll do special episodes where I go through stuff like that. And from time to time, I'll probably do random episodes on other things like, not true crime, but like pop culture stuff from the 80s and 90s. Like, you know, there's some Unsolved Mysteries episodes that I think are fucking hilarious that I think you guys, if you're a fan of that stuff and you like cheesy 80s TV, there's some funny stuff. And maybe that'll be a separate video series that I do, a select, like a season. Maybe I'll do seasons of other stuff. I'll take breaks from time to time and rotate it around. But for now, I'm going to be doing hopefully a weekly podcast here on YouTube and on all podcast platforms. So like, subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell. But that's it for me, bshowbrian. I'm going to try to keep these down to like 30 minutes to be mindful of your time. And felt good to do this. It's been a while, and you can check the clips on YouTube, bshowbrian.com, bshowpodcast.com. May Thorn keep you safe, and I don't even know what damn arm my tattoo's on. May Thorn keep you safe, and may you wield it as your weapon. I am bshowbrian, and I will see you guys next time.